Hi, welcome to Paint Coach. I'm Chris Fornatero, here to help simplify oil painting so you can get better faster. Okay, so I've been painting a lot of portraits lately, and to be honest, I'm getting kind of tired of it. Still gonna keep painting portraits, but I thought I'd change it up, cleanse my palette, no pun intended, and do a landscape. I really want to get out there and plein air paint, which I will do, and I will make a video on that. But before I go out and brave the elements, I wanted to do a quick study here in my studio from a photograph, and that's what I did here. Did a mountain range in Hawaii, and I filmed the whole thing, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to break it down specifically on how I paint the mountains and certain tips that you can implement so that you can paint mountains better. So let's get to it. All right, so the first tip I'm gonna give you is about composition. If you're painting mountains and you want the mountains to be the main focus of the paintings, the thing you find the most interesting, most of the time it's how big they are, how grand they are, make them the biggest thing on the painting. Make it take up the most space is an easy way to think about it. If you want the mountains to be, you know, the main centerpiece and capture the grandeur of them, make sure you frame it in a way that it takes up a lot of space. That's what I've done here. It takes up, you know, more than half of the canvas, I feel like, these mountains. So the mountains will have the biggest presence, and the comparison of the mountains to other elements like the trees, they're gonna be so much bigger than the trees that you're really gonna get the sense of how big they are. All right, so I'm putting in the sky here, and the main reason I'm putting in the sky is because in a landscape, the sky is going to be your lightest value. There's different planes within a landscape, and they each have different values. The sky will be the lightest value, followed by the ground will be the second lightest, and then the mountains, any mountains or hills, will be the third, and then the darkest element will be any upright planes, so trees, structures, buildings, anything like that. So I'm putting in the sky here because it's my lightest value, and also it's, you know, it's touching the mountain. So I really like to paint the painting as a whole and constantly, you know, evaluating how the values are working with each other. It's really hard to nail the value right when you're just painting an object by itself. So that's why I'm painting the sky in here, so that I can compare my mountains when I'm painting them, compare the value of my mountains and making sure that it's the right value compared to the sky, which is supposed to be the lightest value. So with landscapes, you're going to be dealing with what they call atmospheric perspective, which is the further things get away from you, the less saturated they're going to be, the more cooler they're going to be. And as you go back in space, the first color to drop out is reds, and then yellows drop out, and then you get to your blues. That's why you see mountains far in the distance are very, very blue. That's something to keep in mind here when you're painting these mountains, because you don't want them to be too saturated. You don't want them to be too warm, because it leaves you nowhere to go for any objects in front of that, like the trees and, you know, the grass and things like that. I'm blocking in the shadowed portions of the mountain. Most of the mountains are in shadow, and they have kind of these little streaks of light going down the ridges. I'm leaving those blank so that when I put the lighter color for the mountains where the sun's hitting it, it's really, you know, bright and strong, and I'm not having to fight against like a darker color underneath it. But I'm just kind of doing a general wash. I'm keeping the paint really thin. I'm not worried about being completely accurate right now. I'm just getting as close as I can. I'll be adjusting this a lot, going back and forth with it, color and value wise, and building on it. But right now I just want to get something down so that I can start gauging the value of it with the sky, and then also the trees. You can see that I'm starting to put in like a dark value for the trees, so I have something to compare the mountain to. This is like a big mistake I see a lot of people make, is they'll try to just paint the mountains just by themselves, and I know a lot of artists, you know, out there do that, and they do it great. But it's, you know, if you don't have much experience with it, it's very hard to gauge the values without anything to compare it to. So I do recommend getting some kind of relative dark value for the trees and a light value for the sky, so that you kind of know where your mountains sit within this painting. All right, so continuing on the topic of values, you're gonna see there's a lot of different colors in the mountains. There's a lot of different shades of green and blues and kind of purples. And you wanna have those variety of colors, but you wanna make sure all those colors are in the same value range, which means kind of if you took your painting and put it in black and white, you really wouldn't be able to tell, there wouldn't be that big of a difference between the colors. So you wanna have that variety of colors, but you really be really careful that they're all working within the same value, so they kind of look like they're all, part of the same mountain in the shade. All right, another helpful tip is don't get too detailed with your mountains. Most of the time when you're painting the mountains, they're going to be in the distance, and to help them read as further away, painting them more simply and with not as much detail will sit them further in the distance. If you paint them very, very detailed and get in there with a small brush and make all these little details, it makes it, you don't really have much room or anywhere to go detail-wise as you move forward in the painting towards the foreground. You can only get so detailed with, the trees and everything like that. But then again, I like to paint very simply, and I don't get very detailed compared to other painters with my landscapes, like a very simple painterly look. But still, it's a helpful tip to try and keep your mountains as simple as possible so they sit further in the background. So now that I'm further along in the painting and I'm pretty happy with my values for the mountains and relative to the trees and the sky and the ground and everything, I can go back in now and play within those values. And I've added, little dark spots here and there for any deep, cracks or, crevices within the mountain, and also kind of getting just a variety of colors where there's more grass in certain areas of the mountains, and just kind of push it as much as I can without getting too detailed. But since I have those values correct and where I like them, it makes it easy to play within those values. All right, there you go. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Instagram, seeing what I'm painting on a day-to-day basis at Forza43. If there's any videos on painting that you would like to see made, please let me know in the comments section and I will make a video on it. My name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm telling you to go get painting.